When finding girls in tech as a network, I realized that this is one important destination to find myself in, because that combines technology and women issues together. And that's where I can find my passion, like my next big thing. I'm never afraid of trying even big things. And people, after losing stuff, after failing several times, it may seem to them they are weaker and weaker, but I would say just the other way around. It makes you stronger. I am happy to have the chance to be a mentor for several women. I just start talking to them and understanding the main things that keeps them from anything. That was one woman with who I was working, dreaming of starting a non-profit organization in Armenia. One day she comes and say, okay, I have a good news. I registered my NGO. Because it's not myself who advised her to do that. It was herself, with my support, digging into her own thoughts and realizing there is nothing keeping her from doing it.
Welcome to the Soulful Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Lucy Stepanyan. Each week, we explore the inspiring stories behind multi-million-dollar businesses and successful initiatives. Join us as we uncover the triumphs and trials of entrepreneurial journey, and most importantly, the personal transformation that entrepreneurs go through. Whether you're just starting out or you're an experienced entrepreneur, we hope you'll find this valuable and get inspired. Today's guest is an advocate for girls in tech, the founder of FemInno, the largest platform for female innovators in Armenia and the region. She is also the executive director of Relk Academy, Seda Papoyan. We'll go back and talk about the evolution of Seda throughout time and how she shaped herself and her reality. Seda married young. She had 3 kids, and in an Armenian stereotypical reality, she was supposed to be a housewife, taking care of kids, maybe having a part-time job that is not too challenging. But Seda had dreams and ideas that she wanted to bring to life. Today, we'll explore Seda's journey together. Welcome, Seda. It's a pleasure to have you here today, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
It's a pleasure, Lucy, to be here and to share hopefully something that could be interesting, helpful, and maybe important to some of those who are going to watch us.
Awesome. Seda, we're going to talk a little bit about your transformation journey as a female entrepreneur in Armenia. And I want to go back in time and start with the time when you actually chose a degree. You have chosen a degree in humanities, although you're preaching and advocating for women to go into tech and STEM degrees. How did you make your choice when you were young and choosing the degree?
Yeah, that's, I think, an interesting and typical story to my perspective. When I was at school, I was doing good in almost all subjects. And the reason I decided myself, by the way, to go to humanities is hidden in the environment I was in at that time. So it was late 90s in Armenia. And I was at school doing good. By the way, I loved chemistry. And the reason that I didn't go to pick something in medicine was that I didn't have, let's say, in brackets, a good teacher. So because of that, I just decided that, okay, if I'm not good in it, then, but I love it still, okay, let's choose something else. I am lucky enough to have always been, to be raised in a family, a very liberal one. My parents always supported me in whatever decision I would take for myself as a young girl. And they always, even at that time, when choosing a profession, which is not the case with a lot of girls, even now, unfortunately, they were saying, okay, choose something that will make you happy. I mean, literally. So I was just digging around. I was always praised being good in humanities, in languages, etc. So I said, okay, let's see what is there. And I loved history. And that somehow brought me to combining, okay, if they say I'm good in languages and I love history, we are done with chemistry, then let's see what professions are there to combine history and languages. And there, how I found myself in studying art history. At some point, by the end of my studies, I was, and even by now, I don't regret doing it.
Yeah, and I can definitely relate to having teachers that discourage you or maybe don't push you hard enough or don't help you support you to get better in Armenia, unfortunately. And I hope that's changing now to a certain extent. You have 3 kids, and obviously they're choosing careers and professions, and you're either supporting them or nudging them. I want to know, what is your parenting style? And do you nudge your kids to go into certain directions, or do you let them choose themselves?
My elder kids are boys. Both are almost adults now. My elder one will be 18 very soon, and the second almost 17. When they started to look into their interests, of course, and also being not the only parent, but with my husband, we try to kind of support them, guide them, at least give valuable, in our opinion, advice. So we started to dig into, my elder son started to dig in different professions. Of course, technology, which is something I am and the father is in. But also then he moved, he said, okay, this is not mine. I mean, I can code now, but I want to let it aside because I don't like it. That's not my passion. So then he started again with some advice. He started to dig into audit, like financial stuff. And then again, he said, okay, I don't like it as well. This is not mine. And then at some point, and maybe through that balance that I was trying to find as a parent myself, and also getting enough support from my husband, at some point, he came to us saying, okay, I'm getting back to my dream profession, which is football, soccer in the US. So we said, okay, but that's not a profession, right? And you are not, you have not been in it like enough to have this as a professional journey. I said, okay. I mean, he said that I have the whole life ahead, and I'm not old yet in order to not allow me to try at least. So this was a really hard decision. Because it's totally different from what we would think about our child to take up as a profession. But at some point, and now when I try to cover a number of suspicious questions, reactions from even those who are really close to me, one thing that I mentioned clearly is that the most important thing in life is for parents to make their kids happy. So we realized that the only way for our, at least for our elder son now, to make him happy is to allow him choosing whatever he wants, even if he decides to quit football in a year and then regrets it. But it's his own decision. He's happier than ever now because he's trying himself here and there. He got the freedom of being happy. And we now follow his journey. We support in every other step. And even that makes us happier because we realize that whatever is the outcome, we don't know yet. I mean, he is still trying, and we'll see. Maybe we have another Hendrik Mkhitaryan soon, or someone who fails.
Yeah. I think it's very brave. It's a very brave approach, to be honest, because as I'm thinking back about my journey, I was pushed like literally, and back then was like 16, and then you go to university, right? You graduate, immediately go to university. Yeah. So I was pushed into choosing a career. Like, this is the time you have to, otherwise you're a loser. And then that's it. Your life is done. You're not going to be able to get into any university. It's a very brave approach, what you're doing. Do you have any fear, anxiety, or have you come into terms with what the approach that you've taken?
Yeah, I like the word brave because I feel that. When it comes to fear, it's more not fear, but not clarity, whether this is right or wrong. But that does not make me afraid anyhow. It just the feelings that I have in the process are enough to validate that this is a right path. At least we will see if in several years our son comes and say, okay, I lost 4 years of my life like with the ball, and now I need to get back to choosing something serious. Then it's not going to be a mistake, but it's going to be an experience to learn from, for me as a mother and for him. And that's what I am going to tell him at that point. And we agreed. I mean, this is a serious conversation with a boy old enough to to understand and to realize his steps. But I am happy as a parent that I don't push anything. And I like that you relate to the experience of being pushed, which is the case with every other kid in Armenia. I mean, I follow my close friends pushing kids, because that's the anxiety of, if you don't do this, then you are like behind of something which was created, I don't know why. And this life, especially now with artificial intelligence changing our life literally by hours, we don't know what's next. So we just have to hold a bit and then relax and follow through the factors that we can more or less describe and more or less choose for ourselves.
Yeah. We can only control so much, and that's what we have to focus on. And then be in the flow and relax. I love that. And I love what you said. It's not going to be a mistake. It's going to be an experience. So it's literally how we should be looking at our life, right? If you go through something and at the end you think it's a mistake, it really is not. It enriches you and it gives you so much insight, maybe more than if you were to succeed in that. So I love that. I want to talk about you as a mother of 3 kids who, just the story of, again, a woman who decided to follow her dreams. Traditionally, I would think, maybe more stereotypically, a woman with 3 kids, maybe you should have a part-time job, maybe stay home mom and just do your chores at home, be a housewife. But thinking about starting an initiative or starting a business or even just following your dreams is just out of scope for most of Armenian women. Maybe now it's different, but back then, most certainly that was the case. How did you make the decision to prioritize yourself and your dreams? And what was this journey like in the beginning? When did you make that decision?
Yeah, that when I reflect now and through various stops in or milestones in my life, I realized that it's in my nature to let things go. Because when I think of myself at the age of 15-ish, I was like projecting my life of full studies, like being really good, choosing my path, creating, like building my career to certain stages. And then think of personal life. So around 30s, I was thinking. By my 30s, I had 3 kids. And those who knew me or my projections were like, where are you now? I mean, how come you chose this? And when I look back at the age of 20, I met my future husband. I mean, we met, in fact, earlier, but at the age of 20 and him being 21 only, like very young, really. We decided something for us, to build a serious family, just because we wanted to do that. We were happy together. We knew that we want to start early, like the family life, and that was our decision. Now, when I look back at it, I realized that the moment, though my projections for my life were totally different, the moment that I realized that this is something that I want to let it go, is right for me now. And even the same with letting my child choosing his profession, the same with other really important milestones of myself that I look back, the nature now I am looking at is in realizing the situation, like living in the moment and understanding that this is the right thing for me to let it go, ready to take up the responsibility, whatever it is afterwards. It might end up with not the best family in the end, but even that would not stop me, would not make me regret my steps, because I have stories like in my environment, in my friend, around my friends, that it was not the right thing to start a family early. But it depends on, of course, in a way, to luck, whoever you choose. But it's not more luck than things that you realize and put together and decide for yourself. That's my reflection on how I, in the end, started family so early, being very active from very early ages. And I was sure that even being a mother of two at the age of 22 only, I was ready to continue studying, doing some part-time job at that time, at least part-time job, also staying an active citizen. I was in different struggles here and there, etc. I knew that I could control my life in a way that would not change my nature. So this was the reason I was brave enough to start this life and motherhood so early.
Mm-hmm. How old were you when you started Girls in Tech? And was this your first initiative that you started on your own, or did you start something before that? And how was it, the first experience?
Of course, when my first own experience of starting something was when I already had my third child, and it was before 30. So it was about 28. So I was trying to build something related to motherhood, kind of to try to cover the main problems of mothers in Armenia related to childcare, but in a very flexible way, because I always was very much interested in innovating things. So I was thinking that how come that we don't have a babysitting service? Why we don't have flexible opportunities to put the kids in a place safe, trusted, and then get the kid back when needed. So I started a service, a flexible service for childcare, which I called Tata. And that was back in 2014. And we were the ones who started the journey of summer schools. I mean, it was really tough renting a private house in the center of Yerevan and like getting into really important and big risks. But I was very much, how to say, I believed in what I was putting as a destination for myself in the journey. And I was ready to get into the difficulties of reaching that destination. It was not easy doing it all alone with a brilliant team, but which I put enough efforts to put together, but also having a number of challenges, starting from trust, building the trust, going into the process. Imagine childcare in Armenia, flexible, financial sustainability, etc. But it was one of the best experiences that I had. And that was before going into Girls in Tech.
So yeah, this was your first initiative that you started on your own. And again, and then you made a transition from there to Girls in Tech. It takes a lot of guts and self-belief to move on and continue doing something that might not be successful, or you might not see that it's formulating just yet. So you don't have the validation, right? How did you push through this initial phases of challenges and hardship? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs starting out, they face the same thing. And then when they don't see validation once, twice, they just give up. What was this self-belief, or what was that?
When finding Girls in Tech as a network, I realized that this is one important destination to find myself in, because that combines technology and women issues together, and that's where I can find my passion, like my next big thing. In order to start and try, one thing I love about myself is not being afraid to try, even if that ends up not what I would expect for myself. But I'm never afraid of trying, and trying even big things. And then when it came to the event, I decided to try something in order to validate whether anything women in tech, girls in tech related is interesting in Armenia. Because back then, no one was talking about it. I mean, that was not an issue. Maybe because there were like more serious issues around. So technology was growing, and I said, okay, this is a Girls in Tech chapter in Armenia. Welcome. This is one online initiative. Come join us. I put together an event, which was like only myself organizing it, but I ended up being very happy to find about 20 young women from the ecosystem, like professionals, who decided to join whoever was organizing it, and like not even going into the details. Who was it? What is that organization? That was a very symbolic start, because it was a workshop, an online workshop with a professional connected from the US on confidence building. And this is one thing I love all the time. I mean, this confidence issue, self-confidence for women is like always a red line along whatever they do. So trying to sum up this confidence building workshop, I came up to some of those participants and said, okay, this is only me doing this. If you came here, it means you are interested in it. Would you be interested in joining efforts and trying together? And there I found 3 others who joined me as a team. By the end of the year, we were already strong enough to organize the first hackathon of Girls in Tech in Armenia, and that engaged 100 participants with 10 ideas from all over Armenia, from Vanadzor, Gyumri, Yerevan, etc. And then with sponsorships, with partners. And there I realized that whatever takes it, it's a matter of efforts, responsibility, and in a way, like time, how you control your efforts and responsibility through the time and reach whatever you put for yourself.
I've watched a video of you talking about, I think it was the initiative, the Tata initiative that you mentioned. You pitched it to Kolba Labs in Armenia. And I remember I think you mentioned you're 28 or 29 years old, what you said today. And I've seen you speak in that interview, more humble, more timid, less self-confident. And I think throughout this time, within the last whatever, how many years it was passed since then, you have really developed a lot of confidence. And it seems like you have a lot of strength and power that you've developed throughout this time. What was this process like, this transformation of going from that timid girl who is just starting out, who isn't really sure about what she's doing, and then to this woman who actually knows what she's doing? How did you build that confidence initially?
And now when I look back into even the content that I was sharing as someone talking about things, I see differences. Every time I talk, I see differences, because that's also a part of an experience, right? Yeah. When you know the same question you were answering 2 years back, and now you answer differently because you already know what is better, how is better to formulate the content you put. It can be the same thing you say, but it can take shorter time. It can take like better words chosen, and that's all about experience, and also more about your confidence, how you do things. And when I look into this confidence journey, definitely every next day makes me and makes every person stronger. Whatever it takes, it can be failure after failure, but even those failures are there for you to become stronger. That the same is with me. And even when people think, some people, after losing stuff, after failing several times, they may it may seem to them they are weaker and weaker, but I would say just the other way around. It makes you stronger. It's more emotional that you don't feel the right way you would like to, but it's definitely adds to your experience of doing things, and also confidence, because after failing that it's even more, you are even more confident because you know what was wrong with that, if you are good enough in reflecting and understanding your mistakes or things you did wrong in that case.
Mm-hmm. I think two things from what you said is I've taken. One is you're absolutely right. Every single day you're making yourself better. But I must say it's not the case for everyone, because to become better from an experience, you need to crystallize that experience. You need to have a self-awareness. It's like, taking a stone and molding something out of it, right? It's just like sculpting something out of it. It's the same thing with us, right? If you look back from what you were and what you are today, you have transformed. And this journey takes work, inner work, first and foremost. So I think that's important that to acknowledge that it's not just going through an experience, it's actually working through that experience and crystallizing it and taking something out of that.
I totally agree. And that's why I'm saying it depends how you look into those failures.
Yeah.
If you look into it, I mean, some people may say, okay, this was a mistake, just shut it down and we go other way. You can go other way, but you should first think of those things that were wrong with you or with the journey, whatever it is. And then after that, you get out with some results, right? For yourself. Otherwise, it's just lost period of your life, which is something I would never suggest doing. Everything is there for a matter to learn, to build on, whatever it takes.
Yeah, I agree. Totally. Last thing on this point, a question. If you are to meet a woman right now who is in her 30s or 40s, right, who has 3 kids, maybe 4 kids, and who has a desire to start something, maybe take on a new job or work, a new career path, or start a new business, but she's lost, put in those boxes of frames of Armenian stereotypical family, maybe, right? Whatever is going on in her head, but she has those limits that are only in her head. What advice would you give to her? How would you help her start?
I am happy to have the chance to be a mentor for several women you mentioned, very close to the to the type you described. And one thing I start with usually, I just start talking to them and understanding the main things that keeps them from anything. Either it's doing, either it's thinking, believing, whatever. If there is something wrong, there is a reason. So what I usually try is to understand the reasons, like help the woman or the girl, whoever, understand the reason. I start asking like cross questions. And at some point, and I ended up, and that was one of my key messages or key stories in my TED talk I had the chance to deliver last year in Yerevan. That was one woman with who I was working, like in her advanced ages, but below 50. But she was like really dreaming of starting a non-profit organization in Armenia, and she always had difficulties, etc. And then when we were working together online, talking several times, one day she comes and say, "Okay, I have a good news. I registered my NGO." Okay, and that was my fear. Was that the right decision for you? I mean, how you came to it? Because it's not myself who advised her to do that. It was herself just with my support, digging into her own thoughts and realizing there is nothing keeping her from doing it. It's just herself, her mind limiting herself based on various factors that she cannot do it. It's a mystery. And then when she just started working with herself, she realized this is what I want to do. And this is what I can do and ready to manage the risks and the responsibility. That's it. And whatever I would suggest any woman who wants to start, who wants to do anything, just in order to, before trying or starting, think of the things that keeps them and understand if those are things that cannot be covered, stop or change or control anyhow, because you need to understand your situation, and you need to understand those difficulties that maybe are only in your mind, which are fears, some different obstacles that you think could be, but in reality they don't exist in most of the cases.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. I'm just trying to understand, you already had girls in tech. Why did you need to start FemInno? What was the drive for you, the push that, okay, we have this is great, but we need this? Like, what is, in other words, FemInno's purpose, or raison d'être, as they say in French?
Yes. So one thing which was important and is still, and it keeps proving it, that we didn't by then have anything from Armenia. So my main reason to start this brand name is to make sure this is something going out as an Armenian brand, empowering women into innovation. So that's why we initiated a new name and also a new international path for us to unite not only everyone who is interested in Armenia and can be in Armenia with us, but also projecting to our bigger thing, which is a global network of people and organizations who are interested in the female talent and leadership in Armenia. And that's how we start being the second year last year in 2023. We started already, like, next big thing, getting FemInno out of Armenia. And there we initiated the satellite conferences, which are kind of going around Armenia, but they also start traveling here and there, especially to destinations where there is enough community of Armenians, the Armenian diaspora. First was in San Francisco in October 2023, and in March this year, we managed to reach Sydney, Australia.
The secret sauce of Seda, and FemInno maybe also, is the power of networking. It is really one of the most important things in building any type of startup, really. But in this case specifically, the network that you have and you have built really fuels everything that you do. How did you initially build that network? What did it take for you to create this amazing network of not just female entrepreneurs, but also thinking about the ecosystem, right? What female entrepreneurs need to be supported, and then building that through. What was this process like for you?
Yeah, I agree with that secret sauce idea being the network. And when I look back into the secrets of building this network, and again, it's maybe in the nature of a person who is either a networker or someone who can make use of any network, right? Or just try to find those people in different ways, connections and benefit from those networks. So basically, when I look back, and one thing that I can clearly say is that I love talking to people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something not just saying, right? It's a matter of just loving in every conversation that it takes. Of course, through my journey, I already have a number of cases when I just don't get into conversations because it's a matter of time and like you cannot talk to every person, right? But
Yeah.
when it comes to talking, I love exploring myself, and I love exploring the person and the environment that I am in. So this is one natural benefit that I have when creating the network. But then
Mm-hmm.
when it comes also the network itself, it's uh, it's not one time effort. You know this person? Okay, it's forever. No, I have people in my network, and if I don't have or push the relations enough over the process. Of course, it's not every day that I talk to thousands of people, but it's using every chance to sustain those relations.
Mm-hmm.
Supporting someone, answering someone, asking someone. It's a way to really sustain and nurture those relations.
I generally hate formulas for success because they're not really applicable in every case, right? You can't just take one person's journey and say, if you do this, 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 you're going to be successful. But in this case, just hearing your story, I want to summarize the formula and I've analyzed kind of what you said and summarized it into the simple formula, which is one, taking small steps, which is in Taoism, we talk about taking little steps which eventually lead to something. Plus, taking experimenting and not being afraid of experimentation, but at the same time, using a validation as, let's say, if there's a funding or something, a small thing, using validation to know if you are going in the right direction, but then continuing with the small steps. Network, building a community around you that believes in the same thing that you do, and finally taking risks and taking steps in whenever other people think that that might not be a good idea to do. Is this does it summarize the formula of your success, you think?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm happy to hear it from a side because it's you usually when you do things, you are not working through uh, any formula. You have it put on wall, right? And when it comes to summarizing, I totally agree. And one thing that I would just add to this, having enough experimentation, network, and also validation, then you could be in a position of, again, I would still keep that word of letting it go. Otherwise, you would not, and that's maybe the part of the risk, right? So, otherwise, every next morning, you have enough reasons to not do things. If you are in that position, then please, by the end of the day, do not regret that nothing happened or whatever you wanted did not happen. So the moment you realize you want it happen, then go for it. Take the risk, evaluate, validate, get people around you, and then see again, look back. Next day could be, you could go through a different path.
Last question. If you could go back to a 17-year-old Seda and you could see her in person right now, what advice would you give her, knowing things you know now?
Oh, that's a tricky one because you mentioned one age which was one of the very first milestones in my life. Let me quickly tell that story, and then I will answer. Through that, I will answer your question. At the age of 17, it was year 2002 in Yerevan, in Armenia. So I was lucky to be chosen as someone to be sent from Armenia to a leadership development conference through an organization, youth organization I was a part of. So I was active all the time. And then my parents, I was not an adult, right, yet, allowed me like within an hour. Okay, if you have the resources, the organization found the resources to buy an airplane ticket, etc. And then, okay, you can go. I said, oh, imagine how happy I was, 17-year-old back then with a lot of difficulties, no internet. I found myself in the airport of Frankfurt. I found the internet. I was like, my eyes were shining at that time. Finding an internet free in the airport was something. I'm writing a huge email to my mom and telling her and asking her from the airport, how come you as parents allowed me take this journey? Because I am now in somewhere I don't know where to go. Because those who were supposed to pick me up, they're not here. Okay, I will manage. Don't worry. But I'm just want to first thank you that you did. But I still just wonder how you managed to, as parents, to overcome the fear of sending your underage daughter somewhere without knowing even what is that conference or seminar about. And from there on, and this was a very interesting milestone. And when I look back into that, and you mentioned that age, uh, maybe I would just think about that opportunities that whatever it takes, I may not agree to go alone, right? As a young girl, or like fearing of what may happen. But I would praise 17-year-old Seda being there and using the opportunities given from parents and also from whatever came out from her own efforts, being chosen as the only participant to that seminar. And I would just praise her for who she is back then. And maybe that's what I feel about myself when I look back at every other milestone of my life. Becoming a mother at very early age, then taking the risk of starting something after having enough good jobs, and then every other new initiative, even now, and even the next projects that I am thinking of, I just feel that appreciation to myself in every age, and I feel happy about it. That I don't need to give advice. Instead, I just feel happy and I feel that need to praise for whoever I was at that age.
Mm-hmm. I think it's super important because women need to learn to own the state they're in right now, own who you are right now, be where you are fully without regret, without looking back and judging yourself. I think we have this continuous voice in our head as women, mostly of, I didn't do this right. I should have done this. I'm not doing this right. I'm not doing that right. And we suffer from imposter syndrome and all of this various different types of syndromes. I think if I could transmit one thing that women can learn from you, it's this unwavering self-belief, confidence, and the ability to own yourself, own who you are right now at this stage without regret.
Yes.
Thank you. I love that. Thank you for your honesty, your time, your story. I'm sure that a lot of women who watch this will find strength, inspiration from this to do and to take the step in whatever direction they feel is pushing them inside, from the inside, right? Our internal voice. So I thank you for that.
Thank you very much. I hope this can be helpful for a number of women and everyone, like as a journey, not only of a woman, but of a person who does things, who believes in things. And yeah, thank you very much. I loved reflecting on a number of things I often do, but it takes up different shapes, and I love the shape this time.